Have you ever imagined going 30 whole days without complaining about anything? Not about the slow traffic, not about the rain falling when you weren't expecting it, not about that task that feels bigger than it should be. And what if, for 1 month, you gave yourself the chance to live in a different way without giving in to the impulse to complain? It may seem impossible. After all, complaining feels like part of modern life. It's almost automatic. Something happens and right away comes the phrase, the sigh, the rant. But what if this habit hid more consequences than we imagine? What if the simple act of complaining drained your energy, contaminated your mood, and even your relationships? In this episode, I want to invite you to an experiment. A challenge that has already transformed the lives of thousands of people around the world, going 30 days without complaining. Here, I'll guide you through this experience, from the context and inspirations to my own journey, the effects science explains. And of course, practical tips so you can try it too. Maybe you'll discover that life doesn't need to change on the outside to feel lighter. It can change inside, in the way you choose to react. Take a deep breath with me. And let's begin this journey. This challenge is known as the No Complaining Challenge. The idea started with Reverend Will Bowen, who first proposed a 21-day period without complaining. He suggested using a bracelet on your wrist every time you caught yourself complaining. You had to switch the bracelet to the other arm. That way, the mind begins to clearly notice the frequency of the habit. I chose to extend the challenge to 30 days, a whole month, so the experience would be deeper, more real. The goal? Reduce negativity, cultivate presence and positivity, gain mental and emotional clarity. We live in a culture where complaining seems normal. Often, it's even seen as a way of social connection. We complain about work, the weather, the government, the body, and in doing so, we find complicity with others. But at the same time, this pattern works like an emotional virus. It spreads quickly and makes us carry burdens we don't need. By stepping into this challenge, I wanted more than just to stop complaining. I wanted to transform the way I relate to myself, to others, and to life. And little by little, I realized it's not just about what comes out of our mouths. It's about what we cultivate inside the mind. Before starting, I decided to really prepare myself. I told a few friends and family that I was joining the challenge. To create a sense of commitment, I put a simple bracelet on my left wrist and reminded myself every time I complained, I would have to switch it to the other arm. The rules were clear: no complaining out loud, and also pay attention to the silent thoughts. Those inner grumbles no one hears, but that way just as much. In the first few days, it was uncomfortable. I didn't realize how much I complained without noticing. It was as if my mind was always ready to point out what was wrong. And suddenly, each bracelet switch was a reminder. Look, you slipped again. There were moments of anxiety. It felt like I was forbidding myself to vent. But then I realized complaining is not the same as expressing emotions. I could feel sadness, frustration, even anger, but I had the choice not to turn them into negative repetition. As the weeks went by, something started to change. I became more aware of my thoughts. Instead of simply complaining, I began to reframe. If it was too hot, I told myself, it's hot, so I'll look for a cooler place. If there was traffic, I thought, I can use this time to listen to music that calms me. Gradually, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. It was as if I had more space to breathe, more clarity to see what truly matters. And maybe for the first time in a long while, I realized that being present is much simpler than it seems. Science confirms what I was beginning to notice. Complaining is not harmless. Every time we do it, we activate in ourselves the same emotional state we're describing. Researchers call this the saying is experiencing effect. In other words, by saying it, we relive it. When complaining becomes a chronic habit, it mixes with rumination, that cycle of repetitive thoughts that only reinforce the problem, and the brain learns fast. The more we repeat, the easier it is to access that pattern. It's like a beaten path on a trail, more visible each time, harder to avoid. Studies show that constant complaining reduces focus, creativity, and even productivity. The mental space that could be used for solutions, projects, and well-being ends up occupied by negative repetition. We often think complaining works as a release valve, a vent. But what science shows is that this release can actually increase the pressure. The more we complain, the more we fix our attention on what bothers us. And the result is a heavy emotional state, one that doesn't only affect ourselves. Complaining is contagious. The people around us absorb this mood. A single remark can influence the collective atmosphere at home, at work, anywhere. By reducing complaints, what arises is not just silence, but space. Space for calm, space for gratitude, space to notice what is working, not just what's missing. Reports from people who have tried this challenge and my own experience show clear benefits: more lightness. The body and mind feel less tense, less stress. Situations that once triggered irritation stop having such an impact. Greater clarity. Instead of wasting energy on complaints, attention shifts to solutions, and there's also an impact on relationships. When we complain less, conversations become lighter, interactions gain more openness, more real listening. After all, no one likes being surrounded by negativity all the time. Another deep benefit is the mindset shift. By stopping complaints, you realize you can redirect your energy. Instead of getting stuck on problems, you can invest in purpose projects. And well-being, the most beautiful part of this process is that it's not about denying difficulties. They still exist, but without the extra layer of complaints, they seem clearer and less suffocating. You start to see that many situations don't need so much emotional weight, they just need a conscious choice. Science has much to say about the benefits of cultivating positive states as an alternative to complaining. One of the most studied practices is gratitude. Research shows that simple gratitude interventions, like writing in a journal or drafting thank you letters, can significantly boost well-being. Recent meta-analyses show reductions of up to 7.8% in anxiety symptoms and 6.9% in depression. Just with regular gratitude exercises, the benefits are not only emotional. Studies report better mood, stronger social connections, closer bonds, and even physical impacts: better sleep, lower blood pressure, more energy day to day. It's important, however, to distinguish genuine gratitude from a kind of forced positivity. So-called toxic positivity can be harmful because it ignores real emotions. The challenge of not complaining doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means choosing a different, more constructive response to reality. Another relevant point is the use of positive challenges as a well-being tool. Research in workplaces and health programs shows that challenges like this increase resilience, reduce stress, and strengthen mental clarity. And the most interesting part: these are simple, accessible, replicable practices. They don't require big investments or special conditions. Just a visual reminder, like a bracelet, and the willingness to try. If you want to try the challenge, here are some guidelines. Choose a visual reminder. It could be a bracelet, a ring, or even a stone in your pocket. Something that symbolizes your commitment. Define your rules. For example, don't complain out loud or mentally repeat negative phrases. Start small. If 30 days feels too long, try 7 days. Then, increase gradually. When you feel like complaining, switch to another practice. Make a neutral observation. It's hot today. Turn it into proactive action. I'll turn on the fan. Or find a detail to be grateful for. I'm glad I have fresh water to drink. This process isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. Each time you notice yourself complaining, you've already taken a huge step because you're waking up to yourself. If you feel like it, share your experience. Often, by sharing with others, you inspire those around you. And remember, every transformation starts small. Who knows, maybe this is the first step toward a lighter, more conscious, more authentic life. Throughout this episode, we've seen how the simple habit of complaining can affect our mind, our body, and our relationships. We've also seen how the choice to reduce this pattern opens space for gratitude, presence, and clarity. This is not just a personal exercise, it's a practice supported by scientific evidence. Research shows that cultivating gratitude, reducing rumination, and adopting positive challenges are effective strategies to increase well-being and resilience. So, if you feel the call, allow yourself to try. Maybe you'll discover that life can feel lighter, not because the world changed, but because you changed the way you look at it. I'll be here, cheering for your experience. Before closing, I want to leave you a special invitation. If this reflection made sense to you, leave a comment below. Share what it was like to hear this proposal. Have you ever tried or would you like to try the 30-day no complaining challenge? And if you'd like to go deeper, just write in the comments, "I want the link to the articles." That way, I'll send you the scientific references that back up everything we talked about today. Your participation is very important because every real experience inspires others to also take their first step.